I'm gonna squeeze by it. Oh, never mind. I'll go this way. Got it.
Got some mangoes. There's that. Stir it up. Yeah. Hey.
Paul, I think I might take it out this week. I'm like 70% to lose.
Oh, really?
Only projected at 100 points.
Why so low?
My second quarterback is Aiden O'Connell from the Raiders. But I got David Montgomery back. I don't know. We'll see.
When you trade in the middle of the season?
Yeah.
Trade,
Sometimes they don't play during the week and it's buys and stuff.
They got me.
trade deadline.
Why don't they play, Richard?
18.
Bye weeks.
Oh, bye week.
What the hell?
That's the way it was the other day when I looked anyway, so.
I'm playing Danielle, her sister. That's easy, man.
I don't remember who I'm playing.
I can't remember either.
There's nobody in the top four, I know that. I forget to lose by 20 points.
See, I took down Sebastian.
Easy down there. Hey.
CJ Stroud had 55 points.
It's all right.
Is that right?
Yeah, 5 touchdowns.
Been a while since
I
I've
dropped Jordan Love last week to get a running, to get a tight end.
You had a good game?
No, somebody else picked him up, I couldn't get it back. But I had to take him off my roster.
Yeah, CJ Stroud had like 470 with 5 touchdowns.
I hope, I mean, I don't want the Raiders to win or anything, but I hope it's a shootout. Let's hope for a shootout. They say he's pretty good, but he was like the only starting quarterback left.
Oh, yeah? I know there's some crap out there.
So you're just an easy coordinator.
I got Njoku, no, I let him go and picked up somebody else.
I seen that the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Njoku was on the injury report, so I didn't want any part of it.
Desi, she had Kirk Cousins. She dropped him and got that rookie, Hall, that was starting for the he goes out the first quarter. Yeah, he still has some first quarter.
Who had Cousins?
Desi
Does he had him?
Yeah, I haven't been over there.
So she picked up that Jared Hall. Higgins and
Can we read one of these, Gary?
Another guy came up and finished him up.
Thank you.
I agree. Hey, I waited. I can remember one time that was a big meeting.
The whole room.
Yeah, here. Okay, you gotta use it.
Hi, Greg.
See you.
Greg.
How are you, sir?
You chair?
There's more than one person talking. England? Oh, I'm sorry. I heard they went. That one? They went Portland had a good sized meeting then.
Dan, how we doing?
Back then.
Is that your pen? Bob, use that?
Paul, I was trying to say, I don't ever really.
Pass this around. We'll make sure we don't get doubles.
Yeah, guy. I say Desi got a pen in her bag.
This one?
Hi, Dan. Hi, Richard.
Hey, Steve.
Nice to see you. The spot open. Yes, sir. How you doing, sir?
Pretty good, how about yourself?
We got another one.
Keep that.
One of these?
What brings you all the way over to cheer?
I brought you a gift. Hurry's gonna speak to me.
Oh,
At least he's a Ohio State fan.
is there any others?
How's the Ohio State doing?
You'll make a lot of points for like a get-go.
I know what these calls.
Sitting next to a Michigan fan, so.
No, sorry about your day. All the work.
Yeah. I was just gonna
Yeah,
ask
they got
you
him for the rest of the
guys,
season.
How'd you guys
What
jump
side
to number
you on?
1 in the horrible knockout for the last 3 games?
That's only the beginning.
It's only the beginning.
What's up in Paul's world today?
All I need to know.
Been wondering about the cold.
This is our something.
Always been a Michigan.
I know.
I root for the Buckeyes, it's not Michigan. I'm a Big Ten. Big Ten guy.
Well, we only got, 6 months of this year.
I'm surprised.
Doing good, how are you?
Good to see you too, Steve.
Say what?
Mr. Dwayne,
This was,
Harold.
Harold.
Fred
Yeah, I'm
Funkelstein.
a month.
Harold Steve. Fred Funkelstein.
Craig, I remember him.
That's just the Big Ten. Yes, sir. That's your side. I tried to compare.
Yeah. Yeah, but he's sitting at the nursing home right now, so I decided I was going to hang out with him.
Very good.
Yeah, there for a little bit.
You worked through here?
I'll get through there, don't worry.
What did you get him?
You ain't that big, huh?
What do you do wrong?
Hey, Richard, you dropped your pen.
He finds one of them, he's only got 12. Damn, like you do.
Yeah, that I didn't hear my mom. She was telling me when I was going down to Forest Meetings.
Is that right? If I should do
It's not all right. Only had tonight, Gary.
That's Dave's eight.
Yeah.
5 times. I called you red.
Isn't he great?
I'm
Sitting there with his.
I'm good.
doing all right, Gary, how are you?
Yeah, right there still, all perfect.
How many freaking pens you need there, Wiener?
Let's
get to it.
Yeah, he's right through the prayer, everything, Gary, what do we got?
I got half a dozen of them. Huh? You reading that? Yeah.
How's your arm?
Rest you
Good. A little better every day.
That's right.
Oh, wow.
Actually, one of my test scores yesterday were pretty good, so I've got a few more lined up, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday.
I had the day off today, so. Said I had a day off today. I knew what I used to do on my day off, so I,
Went to Morgantown.
Hi, Richard.
I consider, how are you?
All right, how are you?
Pretty good.
Southeast.
Oh, yeah?
West of Indianapolis. Oh, way down there. Little piece.
That's okay. Huh? No, we gotta take it back.
Oh,
I only had it for today.
yeah, briefly.
Hi, Richard, how are you? Good. Other side. Because men don't, I'm not the type of person that wants to. Appreciate that. You got a burger in They have this burnt image of the beginning in their brain. Your grandson? Yeah, I don't have him this year. That was last year. He's on his own. I get a hug every now and all day.
55.
You put it like a note on your back?
No, and then I say,
Get it done.
don't act like your grandma.
I couldn't believe the card was got mobile. I never heard of it. It's called Mid-America Mobile.
I'm Garrett, an alcoholic. I can welcome everyone here to the Coldwater Friday Night Group of Alcoholics Anonymous, those who wish. Open meeting up in serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That's my friend Richard to read the preamble.
I'm Richard, I'm alcoholic.
Hey, Richard.
Alcohol Anonymous Fellowship, million years of experience, strength, and hope with each other. Today, you may solve the common problems and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting to the regions. AA is not allied sex, denomination, politics, organizations, or institutions. Does not wish to engage in any conduct or either endorses nor oppose of any cause or crime is our purpose to stay sober and help others alcoholics to practice.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you, Richard. That's my friend Richard to read how it works.
I'm Richard Alcoholic.
Richard.
How it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to the simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault because they have been born that way. They're naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those too who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to anything to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. As some of these we bought. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on our old ideas, and there was always no ones would let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. There's one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Have measures of brothers nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took which are suggested in this program of recovery. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, capable of the power within ourselves to restore sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we try to carry the message to alcoholics and then practice principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaim, what an order, I can't go through with it. Do not be discouraged. No one among us is able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. Principles we have set down are direction of progress, including spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear to three pertinent ideas. A, we are alcoholics who cannot manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. C, that God could and would have solved it.
Thank you, Richard. Ask my friend Ron to read the 12 traditions.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ron Suoff. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Ron.
Ron, 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous. One, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. 2, for our group purpose, there is one ultimate authority. The loving God as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. 3, the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. 4, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. 5, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. 6, an AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9, AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10, Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues. Hence, the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity, level of the press, radio, and films. 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities.
Hey, Ron. That's my friend Paul to read the promises.
I'm Paul, I'm an alcoholic.
Paul.
Spiritual life is not a theory. We have to live it. Unless one's family expresses a desire to live upon spiritual principles, we think we ought not urge them. We should not talk insistently to them about spiritual matters. They will change in time. Our behaviors will convince them more than our words. We must remember that 10 or 20 years of drunkenness would make a skeptic out of anyone. There may be some wrongs we can never fully right. We don't worry about them if we can honestly say to ourselves that we would right them if we could. Some people cannot be seen. We send them an honest letter. And there may be a valid reason for postponement in some cases. But we don't delay if it can be avoided. We should be sensible, tactful, considerate, and humble without being servile or scraping. As God's people, we stand on our own feet. We do not crawl before anyone. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-pity will slip away. A whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize as we work them.
Thank you, Paul. Ask my friend Sally to read the reflections.
Daily Reflections, November the 10th, a sense of belonging. Perhaps one of the greatest rewards of meditation and prayer is the sense of belonging that comes to us. 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, page 105. That's what it is, belonging. After a session of meditation, I knew that the feeling I was experiencing was a sense of belonging because I was so relaxed. I felt quieter inside, more willing to discard little irritations. I appreciated my sense of humor. What I also experience in my daily practice is the sheer pleasure of belonging to the creative flow of God's world. How preposterous it is for us that prayer and meditation are written right into our AA way of life. Page 323.
Thanks, Sally.
Thank you, Sally. That's my friend Tony to read the 24-hour book.
Hi, I'm Tony. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Tony.
November 10th, AA thought for the day. I am less self-centered. The world used to revolve around me at the center. I cared more about myself, my needs and desires, my own pleasure, my own way, than I did about the whole rest of the world. What happened to me was more important than anything else I could think of. I was selfishly trying to be happy, and therefore I was unhappy most of the time. I have found that selfishly seeking pleasure does not bring true happiness. Thinking of myself all the time cut me off from the best in life. AA taught me to care less about myself and more about the other person. Am I less self-centered? Meditation for the day. When something happens to upset you and you are discouraged, try to feel that life's difficulties and troubles are not intended to arrest your progress in the spiritual life, but to test your strength and to increase your determination to keep going. Whatever it is must be met. Whatever it is that must be met, you are going to either overcome it or use it. Nothing should daunt you for long, nor should any difficulty entirely overcome or conquer you. God's strength will always be there, waiting for you to use it. Nothing can be too great to overcome, or if not overcome, then used. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may know that there can be no failure with God. I pray that with His help, I may live a more victorious life.
Hey, Tony. Here in Coal, we have a token system. I've asked my friend Kevin to give out tokens.
Kevin, I'm alcoholic. And at this meeting, we give out tokens to recognize different lengths of sobriety. First token we have is a 24-hour token. Anybody need a 24-hour token today? So, and then we have monthly tokens, 1 month through 11 months. Anybody have any month they'd like to celebrate today? And then we have a 1-year token. Anybody for a year? We also have an 18-month token. And then we have multiple years, all the way up to, I don't know, a long time. Anybody need a token here today? All right, well, if you haven't had a drink, let's hear ourselves.
All right, we're passing a slip here. If anybody's interested, we're going to try to make a trip down to Dr. Bob's house sometime in April. But we'd like to know, have a general idea how many people would be interested in that. Just sign your name. If you belong to another home group, or if you want to sign it here, just sign it somewhere at your home group or here, so we have a general idea of who's would be willing to go down there. So I'll pass it around, and Nate, or just pass it around with you. All the Southern tradition, we'll pass the basket around. All right. On December 3rd, we have our district meeting. That's GSRs, alternate GSRs, and anybody who's interested with service work. If you're interested in going down to that thing down at Dr. Bob's, we'll talk about it at our district meeting on December the 3rd. Also, on December the 1st, we're going to have a joint meeting here with the Al-Anon group and the AA group, old members of this group, to discuss our anniversary and any other things that pertains to keeping everything going in this group. All right. There's a new AA meeting, Happy Destiny group. It meets every Tuesday at 7 o'clock. It's at Zion Evangelical Lutheran Church at 218 East I Street, Portland, Indiana. Each week we will be reading and discussing conference-approved AA literature. It's an open meeting. Everyone is welcome. And on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, they have their meeting that used to be at the hardware store there in Portland that meets at the same place. Also, there's a there's a band here that you can scan that and get in contact with all the Al-Anon and AA activities in our area. All right? Any other announcements? All right. Tonight I've asked my friend Bernie. I met him in Fort Wayne, Indiana at the state convention, and he's my sponsor's sponsor. And he's been in sobriety for quite a few 24 hours. I've never heard his lead. So without further ado, I gave my friend Bernie G. from Fort Wayne, Indiana.
My name's Bernie Gagne. I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date's June the 23rd, 1984. My home group is the 12 and 12 study on Tuesday night in Fort Wayne, Indiana at Aldersgate Church. If you happen to be in town, please come and join us. My sponsor is Ron back there. He's been my sponsor for about a year now, and I'll have a story about that. I'm supposed to share with you what I was like, what happened, and what I'm like today. First, I'd like to say it's been a very rough year. I lost my sponsor of 20 years on January the 1st on my way to Florida. Didn't make it back for the funeral. In June, my estranged brother, they found his drinking buddies from the bar, found him in his apartment dead after 5 to 7 days. Last month I lost my good old friend that I played golf with, who was 90 years old, up in Michigan. So there are some people in Michigan I like. Also had some health issues that have gotten over with. Hopefully we're doing better. Also, along with what I was like, what happened, what I like now, my old friend Frank Finker, who has passed away, used to always say that life consists of a series of relationships. What's your relationship with your God? What's your relationship with your family? What's your relationship with your spouse? What's your relationship with your friends, your sponsor, on and on and on. And I'd like to incorporate some of that as I go along. I was born in the state of Ohio, up north in Fremont, to a very Catholic family. And I'll tell you how Catholic it was, is that my aunt's son was in the seminary, and my mom heard about that, and she kept nudging and saying, you know, Johnny's in the seminary. And she kept nudging like that. And that was all cool until somebody explained celibacy to me, and I decided it wasn't such a great idea. Anyway, you know, they taught me, it was a loving family. Alcoholism didn't show up until it was my generation. I've already lost 2 brothers to this disease. I have a sister that's still busy doing research, and hopefully one day she finds herself here. You know, I don't know. But it was a loving family, middle-aged, middle income, you know, just a good family, you know. My parents all went to church, everybody, last pew in church, you know, that deal. And I went to parochial school for 12 years. It's a small town, probably about 20,000. But even that small town, we lived in an area was called the Prairie. And then why it was called the Prairie, I do not know. But that's where all the Polish descendant people live. And my mother's a full-blooded Polish person. So the church we went to, the school was above it for the grade school. So it was 3 rooms. You had 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade, 4th and 5th, and 6th, 7th, and 8th. So if you didn't learn it the first year, you got a chance the second year, and if you didn't learn it the second year, you had a chance the third year. So we had one of the largest classes
it was 7 people. And we were all either first, second, or third cousins. So it was a very tight group. Then I went on to high school, and it was, again, a parochial. And there was not a large class of 100 people, so it was not a big town at all. And, but, school was fine. Every once in a while, when your first drink was, I have no idea. My father would always do odd jobs, and so I was the oldest, so I always went along and helped him. And in that little prairie area, there was 2 bars, which somehow were owned by relatives. So after we did whatever work he had to do, we'd stop at the bar and belly up to the bar with my old man, and we'd drink. Could have been 10, could have been 11, could have been 12 years old. It was not a big deal. Drinking alcohol was not a big deal in my family. Probably still isn't, with a few that are left. So, life was good. As far as academics, I did well in school. Didn't start really drinking significantly till probably a senior in high school. And that was just friends on the weekend, I do know that in a small town like that, and probably a small town like this, a means of recreation is grabbing a 12-pack or so and driving around the country. Huh? Oh, as a kid. And that's pretty much what I had to do. So, that was all said and done. It was time to go on to Institute of Higher Learning. My first stop was at the University of Cincinnati. My first roommate was a kid from Jersey who loved to drink. And this is in the late 60s. If there was ever an opportune time to go to college, it was in the late 60s. It was sex, love, and drugs, that was it. We did not like drinking 3-2 beer in Ohio, so we always walked across the river to Kentucky and drank. To say I wasn't invited back the next year was, they didn't say I couldn't come back, but they didn't give me a formal invitation to come back. So I moved on to an Institute of Higher Learning in Columbus, Ohio. And again, birds of a feather flock together. My roommates were all drunks. We all drank. And life was good. It was really good. My sophomore year, they said, Mr. Gagne, you decide what you want to be when you grow up. Or in other words, I have declared a major. Now, when I was growing up, all my cousins and friends, they wanted to be an airplane pilot, a nurse, a doctor, or something. I didn't have any. My aspiration in life was to be able to drink as much as I wanted to, whenever I wanted to, and that was the same as it was in college. So you got to declare a major. So I asked my dad, and I said, what do you think I ought to be when I grow up? Because I don't have any idea. And he says, well, we don't have an engineer in the family. I'm the oldest. We don't have anything in the family yet. So I looked down the disciplines in engineering at Ohio State. There's 13. Found one that I never heard about and got a degree in it. So I became a metallurgical engineer, which I didn't use till I got sober. Again, in that same year, 3 things happened that altered my life substantially. One, my girlfriend at the time came up pregnant, so we ended up getting married. We did that deal back then. Second thing that happened was that I was introduced to drugs, and this is the extent of the drug thing. And what happened is I became like to smoke hash and drink cheap wine. Now, Ripple White October vintage was my favorite. Probably nobody ever heard of Ripple. Never a grape was ever harmed, you know. And the third thing that happened is I got involved in the counterculture, and the only significant part about that was the only time I felt comfortable in my own skin until I came to rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. So, you know, we continue on. The three of us are going through life, my little girl and my wife and I. I'll state right now that I have multiple marriages. Alcoholism wasn't the only fall of my. So we continue on, go to college, finally graduate. They say, hey, we got this fellowship, you know, if you want to go on and get your master's. School's already interfering in my career choice of drinking whenever I wanted to, so I declined that. So I get out in the real world, and my first boss is this little guy from West Virginia who loves to drink. So I'm drinking every day right now. And so my new boss decides that maybe we ought to drink for our lunches. So we started doing that. And the drinking's escalating. And eventually, you know, my wife at that time said, you know, started complaining about, I was primarily a beer drinker, scotch and whatever else you had. And she complained about, you know, the garbage men, you know, about all the empty bags of garbage, of beer cans, bottles, etc. And to appease her, is that I didn't quit drinking, don't worry about that. Is that I decided the way we could handle that was just put a 16-gallon keg in a refrigerator. And therefore there'd be only one can. And so, you know, had that in the refrigerator. Became a real good friend with a local distributor. After a while, he'd bring one, and he'd not only bring it, he'd put it in the refrigerator, he'd tap it for me. And then there came a time when I was, you know, worried about my supply, so I always kept an extra 16-gallon keg around. So I don't know why anybody needs 32-gallon of beer at their disposal, but I did. So drinking got worse and worse. That wife noticed I had the shakes, and she said, you got to go see the physician about that. So being the good husband I was, I went to see the doctor, and the doctor, he didn't ask me any questions, and I don't offer any information unless I'm asked. He said, you have a nervous problem, young man. I said, yes, sir, doctor, I do. He said, well, here's this big bottle of pills. And take them. If those don't work, take a couple of them. If they don't work, come back and we'll give you stronger ones. And so entered the world of prescription drug abuse and alcoholism. Never want to be called a drug addict. Don't know why. Just never sat well with me. So I knew eventually that I have to get off the pills. It took a couple of years before I made that decision. So I did. And then, you know, you can't drink. I was drinking 7 days a week. You can't drink 8 days a week. So I just started drinking more and more. My life was getting really insane. Did some geographical cures, took my family with me. One time had a job down in in Alabama. Now, I got down there like 8 weeks, found a place. Unfortunately, I found that the neighbor lady was very attractive, and I decided to move in with her, and that causes marital problems. So that ended in a divorce eventually. We moved back up north. By now, my drinking has escalated even more. So a buddy of mine was working in Kendallville, Indiana. And he said, hey, why don't you come over and go to work where I work? I said, well, sure. Divorce was final. Went over to Kendallville. And drinking still escalated. The only problem about that is I got an apartment on the second floor, and it was hell dragging that damn keg all the way up there. But get there, and lasted about 18 months. And I had already gotten a DUI in Ohio in 78, but I only blew like a 1.6, because I didn't think that was a big deal. And I got reckless op, which you got back in those days, $500 in the lawyer, and you walked away with a reckless operation. So no consequences. That's the thing that always was with me, is that I never had any consequences to my drinking. You wreck a car, you get a new car. You lose your wife, you get another one. Get more kids at the same time. Lose a job, get another job. Never did I think I had any consequences. So, and eventually, and that's in Kendallville, one time a guy we were working with, there's a racetrack in Fort Wayne called Bear Field, and he would race there. He told me and one of my drinking buddies to take my pickup truck, come down to the races, and so me and my drinking buddy, we called him Hippie. We drive down to Bear Field, except it starts raining. Two hicks from Kendallville don't waste a trip to the big city. So we decided we're going to go to one of the finer establishments in Fort Wayne called the Scorpion Club, which was the nastiest strip joint in Fort Wayne. And we decided we'd close that. Now, I thought I was perfectly well to drive that night. And I don't know where they caught me, but I was driving up a one-way street somewhere in Fort Wayne. They took me, left my buddies in the middle of the road, compounded the truck, going one way, me going the other. Go to the station, and this time I didn't get a lawyer. I knew I was gotten. My life at that point has got to a place I felt like I was on this merry-go-round, and I didn't know how to get off. I had never heard of Alcoholics Anonymous other than on a bar stool at the bar. Like those guys don't know how to drink, that's why they have to go to those meetings and stuff like that. Just poor crap. I didn't get a lawyer, so I go to court, and I get sentenced to outpatient counseling and 10 meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. So I thought I'd go to the outpatient counseling first. And it was a place called the Northeast Center in Kendallville. I learned a couple things there. One, they told me that, said, Bernie, most people don't drink like you, and some people don't drink at all. I said, you're kidding me, right? Because I don't know a soul that don't drink. And the second thing he said, it isn't the booze to get you, it's the locomotive. It's the first drink. And then they had this thing called some kind of therapy, and I can't remember the name of it. We just pick out this picture of the most serene, quiet picture that you can imagine. And once you get a craving, you think about that picture in your mind. I don't know if it works. I never tried it. So I graduated, which means I paid him sufficient funds. And it was on to Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, I didn't think I did anything that bad to get 10 meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. I mean, I only blew a 3-2. But so I decided it was a Saturday night, a meeting kind of like this. It was an I&M building. The smoke was about 2 feet from the floor. And it was June the 23rd, 1984. And I don't remember who spoke. All I remember is after the meeting there was like 8 guys surrounded me and giving me their phone numbers and all this stuff. And I didn't understand that. I think it's because they hadn't had a newcomer for a while. I was just new meat, that's all. But they said, we got a good meeting tomorrow. It's in Auburn. It's a really good meeting. We'll pick you up at 6:30. I said, that's all right. I went to a meeting today. He said, no, we'll be there. So 6:30 next day, they're there in the driveway, beeping their horn. They ain't going anywhere till I go to their meeting with them. So I go to the meeting with them. They bring me home, drop me off. Said, there's a great meeting in Waterloo tomorrow. It's at 7:30. We'll pick you up at 7 o'clock. I said, that's all right. I went to a meeting the last 2 days. I said, all right, we'll pick you up. Again, they come in. They're in the driveway. They're beeping the damn horn. They ain't going anywhere till I go to their damn meeting with them. And so we go. And this goes on and on and on and on. And they were doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. Finally, I told them, I said, I only got 10 of these to do. And I don't want to burn them all up. The judge is going to think something's fishy going on here. And they pretty much told me that what I was and that I go as many meetings I wanted to. So I started going to meetings in Kendallville, Indiana. And they keep talking about this sponsor. So my boss had just got out of the jitter joint 8 months before that. And I said, well, I have access to him. I can, be around him. So I asked my boss to be my sponsor. Bad move. Bad move. Every day I go in, did you drink last night? You blah, blah, blah. Nope. And it went on. I finally got my 60-day token. And at that point, I decided that I was going to stay sober in spite of the bastard, just to prove him wrong. Not the best game plan for staying sober, but the one I had at the moment. So I did, made it through a year. Of course, during that year is you go to meetings, go to work, go to meetings. How about I'm single, I can go on a date. Go to meetings, go to work. Go to meetings, go to work. Nothing in between. So that sponsor decided, well, first of all, 14 months sober, the little blonde bebops into the meeting. And I'm sure as hell God sent her. Yeah. And so we did AA, dating, and all that good stuff, got married. And there was bets that marriage wouldn't have lost, even by our sponsors, wouldn't have last anywhere from 6 weeks to 6 months. And we proved him wrong. We made it 9 miserable damn years. But before that, you know, that first sponsor decided he didn't eat Alcoholics Anonymous anymore. And so I had to find another sponsor. And his name was Bud Thomas, and he was a godsend. His little guy, about 5'2", used to be Golden Gloves boxer, just meaner than hell, exactly what I needed. He took me through the steps. He made Alcoholics Anonymous fun. He made it interesting. He made it enjoyable. I never had to worry about volunteering for service work. I was always volunteered. If there was a picnic and no one raised their hand and said they'd chair it, he'd raise his hand and he said, Bernie will do it. Nobody's chairing the meeting next month, Bernie will do it. So one year I moved up and lived in Michigan one time, and there's a Defiance Roundup. It was just last weekend. And Bud calls me up and he said, I want to go to that Defiance Roundup tomorrow. It's on a Friday. I said, well, Bud, I live in Michigan. He said, that's all right. He said, I'll be ready at 9 o'clock. Sleeting, raining, snowing. So I go pick him up, we go to the Roundup. But we did things in Alcoholics Anonymous. We got active, he was active. His wife came down with Alzheimer's. Her name was Eileen. And this is important later on, is he'd go every day. And he'd go up at the unit and see his wife. And he'd feed her ice cream out of that little thing with a wooden spoon. And she didn't know Bud from Adam. And I said, she don't even know you, Bud. Why you go up there? He said, that's all right, I know her. And so one Saturday, I hadn't been up to see Eileen for a while. And went up to the 3rd floor where she was at and opened the elevator, and there was Bud. He was crying. And at just that moment, like 5 minutes before that, she had passed away. And there was a reason I went up on that Saturday. So, 5 years sober, I decided I had to do something for myself. So I was smoking 3 packs of Marlboro Reds a day. I said, well, I'll just quit smoking. So I put the cigarettes down. 6 weeks later, I was in a cardiac care unit. I had a massive heart attack. Not the poster boy for quitting smoking. And I was really pissed too. And so I was in this little water park with my one daughter, my sister and her nieces, and they took me to this little hospital in Fostoria. Now the importance of that is when they were wheeling me in, and this is what I remember, and I don't know, is I remember seeing me on the gurney. And it wasn't too much longer that I was in this tunnel of light. And it was warm, it was quiet, there was figures in the distance. It was incredibly calm. And I don't know what it was. People say that's a, out-of-body experience. I don't know. I know as my life changed after that. I was no longer afraid of dying. I had a new sense of belief in a power greater than myself. And so I'm in this hospital, and God works always in mysterious ways. And I asked for somebody to come up and see me, and went to the local intergroup, and they got this guy, and he shows up with a big book. He had the same issues I did, and he was surviving, and he was free from the heart issues for a year, and I knew I could survive too. Back a little bit, I'm jumping around. When I first surrendered entirely to this disease, I remember it was a day I was working, and I would come home and in that same little apartment, and I laid down and took a nap. Now I woke up in this cold sweat. I know if I had just slept for a couple hours and woke up, I was out, came back in, crashed, I don't know. All I know is I dropped to my knees, and I was engulfed in this umbrella of warmth, and I surrendered to the God of my understanding and had a desire to drink since then. God has always been great to me. For somebody that never stopped believing, but never really identified after my bout in Catholicism. So after that ordeal, just continue to be involved in Alcoholics Anonymous. Met a lot of people. I talked about the Alzheimer's. My mother got Alzheimer's. And these are about the relationships, and she would be in this unit for 3.5 years. And she would not know anybody. And it came the time I got a call, and I was told I had to be home, and because things were getting dire. And so I went home, and at the same time I was preparing to chair a convention. But I ran home, and my siblings, they said, well, we can't watch our mother die like that. And I said, what do you mean you can't do that? He said, we can't do that. So I spent 4 days and nights, 24 hours a day, by her bedside, and was able to be there when she took her last breath. Now that's not me. That's Alcoholics Anonymous. You gave me that gift. I didn't have that. That was not my toolbox. I'm up in Michigan and had a friend up there, and he wanted me to stay up there, and not a good place for an Ohio State person. And met this guy, his name is Leon DeLong. Never forget his name. He was like past delegate, and he was going to keep me there, and I was going to be his next in line. And we'd play golf together all the time, and Leon would always keep score, and I would always lose. And so he had gotten esophageal cancer, and they explained to him that they could do the surgery and give him 6 more months. And he said, well, what's my quality of life? And he said, well, it's not going to be very good. He said, well, I don't want to do that. And he said, I want to just enjoy life as I can. So, I'd call him up. I'm back in Indiana. I'd say, Leon, how's it going? And he said, well, the doctor said 2 weeks. I said, oh my God, that's horrible. He said, yeah, he told me to come back in 2 weeks. And he had just the sickest sense of humor. And it went on and on and on. So we decided we're going to play golf one last time. So we're up playing with my buddy that just passed away in Marshall, and put bags in the trunks, and he said, well, you beat me this time. I said, oh, wow, Leon, that's something else. He said, yeah, you can go back and tell them that, you know, you beat me in golf, but don't forget to tell them that I was dying of cancer at the same time. So, and that was another relationship. My relationship with Bud, I was with Bud when he took his last breath, you know. And that's when I got my sponsor, Mike. And that's how Ron became my sponsor. Is Ron was friends with Mike also. And he had fell on and hit his head on the concrete, fractured his skull in 3 places, had brain bleeds, traumatic brain injury, and he went from this nursing home to that nursing home, and I would go see him once a week, and Ron would go see him once a week. About November last year, we decided, I talked to Ron, I said, you know, I'm going to need a sponsor because Mike's never going to get out of the nursing home. And he agreed to it. I said, but I want to keep Mike too. And he said, oh, I understand that. And so we've been together for almost a year. And I tell you what, it's a great relationship. We have brunch or lunch. We go to lunch, we eat breakfast, or whatever that means. And about once a month, and we'll, you know, I think about a half hour's gone by, and here we've talked for an hour and a half. And we talk about everything. And it's just great. So life in Alcoholics Anonymous has been amazing, absolutely amazing. I have a great relationship with my daughter. My youngest daughter calls me every Sunday at 9:30 on the dot. And my oldest daughter, not so much. I have a grandson, a granddaughter, and a great grandson. My grandson helped out on that early. So I've been married, I'm on number 4. She doesn't like me saying current wife, so. So, in our area, there's 5 young women Alcoholics Anonymous, anywhere from 2 years to 16 years of sobriety. And they adopted me as their AA daughter. It started out with one that came up to me after the Defiance Roundup when I was chairing and said, I want you to be my AA dad. I didn't know what that meant, still don't. But I thought it was some very loving gesture. I said, okay. And then there was another one. Anyway, there's 5 of them. And there's what they call themselves AA grandchildren too. So, I was never going to get married again. And I hadn't been married for over 10 years, which is a record. And so a couple of them started doing matchmaking. So you need to go out with Trina. Trina's got a boyfriend. And say, well, you need to go out with Bernie. And so they played that game, and they finally got us to go out to breakfast. And one thing led to another. So I surprised her. Oh, by the way, I got 3 stepchildren at the same time, and the one is an amazing young woman. And I said, well, you know, your mom's birthday, she could be 60. Let's just make an engagement party too. What the hell? So we did, and we pulled it off. And I've been blessed with I guess they said 3 strikes you're out. There's a lot of truth to that. I guess the 4th one's the winner. So I've been blessed with an extremely wonderful wife and relationship. She's amazing. She just had her anniversary a week from today, and she had 11 years, which was difficult for her because she was a crack cocaine addict. It was difficult for her. But life is wonderful. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better life today. That's only because of the 12 steps. Meetings like this, God that I now understand and pray to on a daily basis, twice a day, if not more. I've been given this gift that I can give to others, and a gift that only I can give away. And the only way I can give away is to stop doing things like this, stop going to my home group, and stop sharing what I was given freely. The old boy in my home group says, you know, God didn't love you today, I do. And with that, I pass. Thank you.
That's a good message. Yeah, if you keep coming back, you don't drink, don't drug, things happen to you if you stay sober. You know, it's in the process. It's not any of that. You know, as customary, we'll just open it up if anybody wants to say anything.
Thanks, Tom. I call it.
Tom.
I really enjoy your lead. Everything, I matched up with everything in your life. Even the out-of-body experience. When I was 16, I had one. And I got to relate to the way you were talking about it. When I just went to a door and it was just bright and beautiful. I felt the warmth. I didn't hear anything. I related to that, and I just wanted to know it happened before. Thanks.
Thanks, Tom.
Steve, alcoholic.
Steve.
You know, I found it kind of funny how I related to part of your story with your solution to the cans and bottles with the kegerator. And I remember I was dating a girl in Columbus, and we broke up. And we had a garage when we lived together, but I moved into an apartment and didn't have a garage. Well, I had to have somewhere to put the kegerator. Well, I did have a garage that was out, it was detached, but it didn't have electricity. So I had a big closet off my living room, and me being resourceful, I just wired in an outlet in the closet and stuffed my kegerator in there. That was my solution. But, and you know, my downfall was always, my favorite was Bud Light and glass bottles. Well, that makes a heck of a lot of noise when the trash man comes. And so do the big bottles of glass, liquor bottles, you know, because we all know liquor's quicker, you know, so if I was really on a roll, you know, but that was my solution too. I just thought that was kind of funny because that brought back some memories. So thank you for your story. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Steve.
Steve. Emergent alcoholic.
Richard.
Yeah, thanks. You said that basically your career ambition was to drink whatever you want, whenever, or however much you want, whenever you want. And I did that, so as my career path, I chose the Marine Corps. And unfortunately for me, they didn't take me as long as very long anyway, not as long as I wanted to, because I could have stayed in, but I didn't do very well in the Marine Corps because I drank too much. But also, when you talk about Fremont, Ohio, I lived up there for a couple of years, or for about 6 months, I think is all I actually lived there, but I was in and out for a couple of years with this girl, and coming back and forth from San Diego. And so I thought that was interesting. I didn't look at my watch the whole time. I did a pretty good job this time. I'll pass.
Thanks, Richard.
Thanks, Richard.
I'm Joni, I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Joni.
I love the idea that this life is a series of relationships. And I guess since I've been sober, my relationships have improved greatly. And I've been able to take an active role in them instead of taking from them. I've been able to give to them, which is a pretty cool thing. Yeah, so I related to a lot of what you said. And I appreciate you coming tonight and giving me a list. Thanks.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Jeremy.
Jeremy.
I'm Gary, an alcoholic. Like he talked about the isms. That's what that keeps a lot of them going back out the isms. That they're not just drinking going to solve all their problems. It's not. They don't work that way. I think we have to have a relationship with the power greater than yourself. And I've done crazier things since I've been sober than I did when I was drinking. And I justified every damn one of them. You know, until I get a relationship with the power greater than myself, you know, nothing really changed. You know, I really enjoyed that lead, Bernie. Anybody else?
Yeah, my name's Ron, I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Ron.
I'd like to thank Bernie for being my friend. And I didn't know it, but we both smoked Marlboro Reds before we quit. I learned something about him all the time I didn't know before. But I really liked his share. I really did. I liked it a lot. Without, you know, we don't always know, but the importance of relationships here cannot be underestimated, nor can the relationships with the higher power. Those are two things that I just see a lot of people focus on those, and I don't think it can go wrong. So thanks again, Bernie. I'll pass.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks, Ron.
Anybody else?
Steve Alcohol.
Steve.
Good lead up. I really enjoyed it. And brought back two things that I remember that happened when I was in the military. One of them, I was in the military, I was in the reserves one time. I was up in Niagara Falls, New York, picking up a load of freight. I drive trucks for a living. I've been doing it 30 years now. And probably next year I might could give it up. I don't know yet. But what happened was the brakes froze up, and somehow, some way, I got underneath, lost my temper, got mad, pulled out the hammers, went down underneath, started tapping away on the brakes, and all at once I heard a crunch, and I said, "Oh shit, here we go." And it was about that time, something pulled me out from under that trailer, and I believe it was, they say, everybody has a guardian angel, and I believe God sent him down to take his butt out from underneath that damn trailer. That was one. And the second thing, that when you said you worried about that, having that extra 16-gallon, it was kind of similar to that, because when I was in Europe, I had lived in an apartment, and I had like 6 bottles of whiskey, 2 cases of beer, and I still went up on post and drank. You talk about insanity. That's insanity. But I like your lead. I'm gonna keep coming back. I'm glad to hear you lead.
Thanks, Steve.
Anybody else? All right, we'll close the meeting with the Our Father.
Let me in.
Bernie, want to lead us out?
Yeah, who's Father?
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and glory forever. Amen. Keep coming back to first with your work.
If you had a cork slip, they're in the basket.
How you doing, Josh?
All right.
go get my phone before I forget.
All right. Ready to pull it out?
Hi there.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Just fine.
No, it is.
You're